It's the first book I've ever written where the title came to me before anything else. And I can't even think of where the title came. It just came into my head one day, You Killed Me First. I thought, okay, now I've got to think of a plot to go behind this. And I kind of worked my way backwards.
Hello and welcome to your bonus episode of The Conversation with Nadine Matheson. As always, I hope that you're well and I hope that you're enjoying your week. If you remember, last month I said to you that for the rest of season 3, every month I will be giving you an extra episode of The Conversation. And that's because I've recorded so many conversations with so many amazing guests and I want to make sure you hear them all before season 3 comes to a close in the summer. So this week, well, not this week, today, for the second time this week, I'm in conversation with best-selling author John Marrs, whose books include The One, which was adapted for Netflix, The Stranger in Her House, What Lies Between Us, The Family Experiment, and his latest book, You Killed Me First. And in today's conversation, John Marrs and I talk about a writer's constant battle with imposter syndrome, the reality of being a writer in a competitive market, and the myth of the perfect writing space. Now, as always, sit back, we'll go for a walk and enjoy the conversation. John Marrs, welcome to The Conversation.
Thank you, Nadine. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. I always have to say now, it's like, if we sound very joyful, it's because we've been chatting away for the last 5 minutes before we officially started recording this conversation.
Either that or I'm on a Coca-Cola buzz from the caffeine.
Say it again, maybe I'll get sponsored. This episode is sponsored by Coca-Cola.
I'm in a little office at home. I love this office, and we moved in here a few months ago, and it was the first thing that I had done, and we spent an absolute fortune on it. And I spend so little time in here in the winter because we didn't realise it's the coldest room in the house.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So it looks lovely, but then you can't see the portable heater under the desk, or that most of the time I'm in a dressing gown, writing during the day, writing quicker just to get the hell out of here.
You know, this wasn't even going to be my first question, but now it is. So when you moved and when you're looking for somewhere new to live, was like one of your priorities to be, I need to have a room, an office to call my own, somewhere where I can work, that I'm looking for that space?
No, to be honest, no, because my first 5 books were pretty much written on trains or in offices where I was freelancing at lunchtimes, anywhere that I could. So I'm just used to writing anywhere. And as much as I love this office, sometimes I don't want to be in here. So I'll just go to the gym for an hour and then just spend the rest of the day in their restaurant with my laptop, or move into a different room. Or particularly when it got particularly cold in the winter, I would literally be under the duvet with the electric blanket on with my laptop writing there. So it doesn't matter as long as I've got something to write on or in.
That's so interesting, because I always say, I don't know, I keep saying it a lot, because I think because, you know, when you're on social media, especially on, seems to be like threads, there's always a lot of posts about, I say new writers, aspiring writers, feeling that they need to have, the setup needs to be right and needs to be precise, and it could go down to the right notebook, the right computer, everything needs to be perfect before they can start writing. And for the majority of writers, as you said, you started out writing on trains or in cafes. And I said, I'm always saying, you know, I was stealing time in order to write. It wasn't about finding the most perfect space.
Yeah, I'd literally, the only time I've ever really looked for the perfect space is when I was on the train and I'd have to sit next to disabled toilets because there was more arm in there, and it would stop annoying people. But then you constantly got your arm round where people forget to close the door of the toilets.
Yeah,
so you're pushing the button like swearing these people who are stumbling out.
Were you ever conscious of, you know, like when you are working in public places, of people, what's the equivalent of eavesdropping? Like reading over your shoulder.
Eyes looking just to see what you're at. And then sometimes I go a bit longer when you realise you're not working on some boring spreadsheet. And I occasionally just throw in something like loads of swear words or something a little bit sexual, just so that they would look away, even though I've never really written a sex scene in my life. But I'm just a fan. I'm terrible. I'm always, whenever I used to be on trains, I was always nosing to see what other people were kind of doing on their phone and then pretending not to. I was great in the dark on the train, you know, at night time, because you can see the reflections of their phones when they're trying to hide it away from you, and the Tinder or Grindr or whatever is swiping away, trying to pretend they're not before they go home to their wife and kids.
That was so not where this was supposed to go, and I was just asking you about your writing days.
Sorry.
John, when did you realise, I like to ask this now, when did you realise, not that you could write, because I think a lot of people can have a talent for writing, but that you could tell a story? Because I think that's a completely different thing.
I don't think I did until I actually just got on with it. So I had this idea, working as a journalist, years and years, celebrity journalism, blah, 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 which was fun. But I thought, I'm just one day I saw this piece in The Guardian, and it was, they used to do a section called A Letter To, where people anonymously would write to someone in their life, like 250, 300 words. And this woman's story really touched me. I thought, wow, that'd be really interesting as a film or a book. And I thought, well, we haven't got a huge amount on right now, you're freelancing, but why don't you have a go at writing it as a book yourself? And I did. I just didn't bother plotting out or anything, just to see whether I could get away with it. And the more I did it, the more I thought, okay, maybe this isn't too bad. And just kept going until I finished it. And then you did that thing of getting other people to read it. And a lot of people are a little bit reluctant at first. You think, oh, another person who's written a book, that's not going to be great. I started to get some really good feedback from it. So, So I didn't really know that I could write a book until I actually just got on with it.
Yeah. Did you not feel, I suppose, I don't know if self-conscious is the right word, or just wary of getting the feedback from anyone? Or are you used to it, used to being critiqued because of being a journalist?
I think when you're being critiqued as a journalist, it's because what you were writing is for a publication. It's not from your imagination. It's like fact-based. You're doing it as your job. You're getting paid to do it. When you're writing for yourself initially, and you're showing people what you've done, it's like, okay, I've just opened myself up a little bit here and I've put some of my own experiences into this. Now criticize me for it. So it is a bit weird. But then also as a journalist, you've got a bit of a thick skin. So if you're not prepared for criticism, then it's probably not the career for you.
It's so personal. And it doesn't matter how many books you write, like how seasoned you are.
Yeah.
Having that reaction, or being, I don't know, preparing yourself for other people's reaction, it doesn't go away because it is so personal to you. Yeah.
Do you read your reviews?
No. I only read. No. The only time I will ever read it is if I'm being tagged in. But normally that's like on social media and someone's just tagged you in and you're like, why have I been tagged in this? And you read it. You're like, really? You didn't have to tag me in on this if you didn't like it. You could have just kept it between you and your 5 mates on social media. But do you read them?
Yeah, in the run up, when it's on NetGalley, I'll have a look at the reviews just to get an idea of how it's going, and then I'll maybe venture onto Goodreads. And then once the book's out about 2 or 3 weeks, I'll have a look at reviews and just get an idea of the average and whether people are liking it or not. And then I won't read reviews anymore.
Why do you do that?
Because I hate myself.
Because I'm thinking, it's like, John, do you not like yourself? Would you like a hug?
I'm just curious to see whether it's resonating or not with people. I kind of like to have an idea of like your average rating, what people are liking, what people are not liking. It's not going to change anything that I do in the future because you have 10 people saying, I love this about a book, and 10 people saying, well, I didn't like exactly the same thing about your book. So you're never going to please anybody. And I know that, but for some stupid reason, I'll sit and read them.
Have you done that from the very first book?
Yeah.
Which was your first book? Because I have no idea. I've just gotten down. I put in 13 books and put a question mark next to it. I'm like, I'm not sure.
It was a book called The Wrong Sons, and then when 80 agents and publishers rejected it. 80, I've still got all the letters and postcards, and just some of them are just literally they sent it back, or just a couple, they sent back whatever you sent to them, just no written in red letter across it.
No,
nobody wanted it. So I self-published it, and then I didn't bother sending. I wrote 2 more after the success of that first one in the self-publishing world. I wrote 2 more and self-published those. I didn't even bother sending them out to any agents or anybody because I thought I'm just going to be rejected. And then literally in the same period of 10 days, 2 of the books got picked up by mainstream publishers, and then a production company optioned one of them. So it was a bit of a weird time.
My brain's kind of gone blank because I'm trying to get over like the 80 rejections, and not even just no thank you, but no thanks, but just writing. In my head, it's like they've just taken a big red Sharpie and just written no on it.
Some of them literally had, Nadine. They'd actually done that, just written no or no thank you, not for us, and just sent stuff back, or just an email saying no thank you.
How do you get through that? I'm trying to find a nice way of saying it, but that level of rejection, because it's not just it's not a polite rejection. It just seems like a very, very harsh, like someone's pushed you over in the street rejection.
But, I kind of get like that, actually. I kind of get it though, because they must receive so many submissions every week that you can't sit and read everything, or you have to make a snap decision on something. But you know what? I just had this. It's weird. I had this gut instinct that there was something about this book that people might like.
Yeah.
And so I uploaded it to Kindle, and I thought if I can get 100 people that I don't know to download it, that would be great. And it ended up, it sold about 500,000, so it's done all right for itself in the end.
Did you know what you was doing? And I don't mean that in an offensive way, but because when I always say, when it comes to self-publishing, because I self-published my very first book, and I always say that the writing is actually like the most straightforward part of it. You need to understand how to market books and then publicize. Forget not even the cover art. You can find a cover artist, but it's that marketing side of it that you need to understand, and that takes work.
That takes a hell of a lot of work. So when I first started self-publishing, it was all about Facebook groups and blogs and bloggers, and getting bloggers on side and sending books out and giving the book away for free for like a few days on Kindle publishing, just to get some reviews and things like that. And then it was book clubs on Facebook that kind of started reading it, enjoyed it, started spreading the word amongst themselves, and it really took off that way. So I've got to clarify, it hasn't sold 500,000 in when it was self-published. It's since it's been taken on. So I didn't want to make it sound like
because that's not, because I was thinking, I don't know why you bothered becoming published. I would have just stayed self-pub. No, but that's the thing though, isn't it? When you do, I say, transition over and become a traditionally published author, it then I can't think, my brain's not working today, but it has an effect on your original book. Because I see like the sales, it's not loads, but I see like every month I'll get the email from Amazon saying, here's your royalties for the sisters. So it does have an effect.
Yeah, but I find now that I'm having to do more publicity and more promotional stuff than even when I was self-published.
Really?
Because trying to build up your profile online, I don't really go out and do panels and events and stuff like that. I like being in the audience, but not on the stage. So I do a lot of promotional stuff online in book clubs and things like that, and making yourself available. And that takes up a lot of time. Like, I'm on my phone about 3 hours a day, and a lot of that is just spent answering people's questions, making silly videos, making decent videos, just kind of building up readership for when the next book comes out. And it's a full-time job.
Yeah. It's just like a lot of people, I think, when they say, oh, they're going to self-publish, I always say to them, it's not an easy thing to do. This is not the easy way out.
No, because how many millions of books are self-published every year? And you've got to do something. You've got to find the right category that suits you.
Yeah.
You've got to make impact. It's got to be a decent book. They're not going to do it for you. The only person who's going to do it for you is you.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know if I'd I think I probably would. Depending on what it was, I probably would self-publish again. But I'm glad I've had the experience of, doing it myself the first time. And I was going to self-publish the next book. Like, that was always my plan before I got my deal. I was like, well, if I don't get an agent, I know I've done it before, I'll just do it again and I'll just carry on with my life. So I would never say never to it, but I'm just very much aware that you need to have a plan in place. You just can't press enter.
Yeah, I think it's also, even if you do get a publishing deal, as we both know, it doesn't necessarily mean that your publisher is going to go balls out and publicize it everywhere, does it? Again, a lot of that as you. And in my first mainstream, when I was with Penguin with the book The One, I thought that was normal. There were billboards on train stations and like down in Clapham Junction. There were two massive billboards that I went down to see for the day and then picture taken with them and stuff like that. It was like picked as one of the Simon Mayo's Radio 2 book clubs for the month. I thought that was normal because no one explained to me it wasn't. So when the next one came out, and even though it sold pretty decently, it didn't sell like as much as the one did. I thought, well, what's happened here? Why are they not spending all this money doing this, that, and the other? But nobody tells you.
No, and I think that's a shock for like so many authors, especially new and debuts, because, you know, I always say, you know, your only perspective of publishing is probably what you get from a TV movie when your editor sends you off to an exclusive hotel to finish your book. And I've never been sent anywhere to finish anywhere.
You get a trip to Costa Coffee.
Yeah, if you're lucky, you'll get a trip to Costa Coffee. But I think, you know, that's most people's perspective and their view of publishing is through that viewpoint, that rose-tinted glasses. And then the reality is so different. So a lot of them, you know, they are expecting to get the billboards and the tube posters and the TV adverts, and then the reality is like you don't necessarily get that.
No, you don't. So you've got to do it yourself. You've got to put yourself out there.
Yeah,
I mean, I get it. I've heard from authors before who are like, I'm too shy to do this and too shy to talk about myself. I'm like, well, maybe your book's not going to do as well then if you're not willing to put yourself out there. You've got to treat yourself. It sounds, I try and treat myself as I hate this phrase, but it's the only one I could think of as a bit of a brand, and publicise that brand. I don't have to publicise myself, but I can publicise myself, John Miles, the writer.
Yeah. No, but I don't think that's like incorrect at all. Because before we started recording, I was editing a podcast that I had, an interview I had with Maz Evans. And the first thing she said is that, you know, you're a writer, but you're being a writer is your business. And it doesn't sound sexy at all. You know, being a writer, that is your business. But I was like, no, but that is 100% true. You have to treat yourself as a business. You have to treat yourself as a brand. Yeah.
Yeah, I gave up my career as a journalist to do this. So I went from one career to another career. So, and I had to make money as a journalist and I have to make money as a writer.
And I think it probably doesn't fit into that. It's that romantic view of being an author, isn't it? You're supposed to be tortured, first of all, the tortured artist, and doing it for the love of it. It's not about the money, but it's like I want to go on holiday. No, I want to go on holiday. I need food in the fridge.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to go to Waitrose today. I want a meal deal from there, not from Tesco. I'll make a bit of money this month, please.
But do you think having the experience of self-publishing then, do you think that prepared you for that next stage of being an author? So when you did have the up and down of, you know, the one being everywhere and being turned into a Netflix show, which is crazy, which is why when I found you, I was like, the one, I know this. I'm sure this was on Netflix. I'm like, oh, it's him.
You know what? That's that. It was a great experience. That I mean, I had nothing to do with it whatsoever. They just they gave me the money and do what you want. But it's the only thing that people have ever actually written to me to tell me how much they hate me for allowing that to happen because they love the book so much and it was done so differently for Netflix. Because originally it was written for Channel 4, then Channel 4 pulled out. Then they went to Netflix. Netflix said, but we want a different version, so they did another version, and then their commissioning editor left, and the person that they were replaced by decided, we still want it, we want a different version. So it's so far removed from mine that it was barely recognisable. But it was an interesting experience.
Were you involved in that at all?
No.
Nothing,
no.
You just handed it over?
I didn't even know filming had started until I got a Google alert to say that it was being digital. Yeah. And then I kind of got in touch with the production company and said, hello, has it started? Oh, God, sorry, we forgot to tell you. And I got to go down and watch it being filmed on one of those days, which was a really surreal experience, just kind of sitting in this balcony in this really large flat with all these like 60-odd people and actors and stuff being filmed and near the hair and makeup and stuff like that. I'm just thinking all of you are here because of this one dumb idea I had one morning on the way down an escalator on my way to work.
But then you're like treated just like not even like a little cog in the machinery. Like they've just forgot about you.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm the spare cog in case one of the other cogs didn't work. pop me in if they remember. Yeah. But that's it's the way it is, isn't it?
Did you watch?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah, we got it. It's about 2 weeks. We got access to the whole series before it started, and our little boy went to his grandparents for the weekend, and we just sat with a big bottle of wine and chocolates and just lounged around and just binged all 8 episodes in about a day and a half.
Did you have, when you started to watch it?
Yeah.
Was it like a feeling of like apprehension because you're like, I know this is my book, or were you able to remove yourself from it because it's been changed like 3 times over?
I removed myself pretty quickly when I started watching it, when I realised that just how different it was. Sorry, my computer's beeping.
That's all right.
It was, and I just watched it as a viewer, and I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it. I think maybe it would have been better if they'd have stuck to some of the characters that people have loved, but I can't. My line is, I took it as far as I could in my book, and now it's someone else's turn to take it in whatever direction they wanted to. And pay my mortgage, so sod it.
Yeah. I remember my agent didn't say it to me. My agent said it to another author, my friend. And he said, you got to remember, the book is the book.
Yeah.
And whatever happens after that, the TV series or the film, that's its own separate thing. Yeah. And you have to think of it in those terms. And don't be too attached to the outcome.
Yeah, it's not yours anymore.
No. How many books have you written, John? Because I had 13, and then I put a question mark next to it, and I'm like, is that right?
Yeah, 13. I've just delivered my 14th to my editor for structural edits a few weeks ago, and those have just come back. I've got a couple of secret things going on this year that I can't talk about, which is really irritating because I'm dying to. So that next book's out not until next March. And then, you know what it's like. You're never just working on one book, are you? You're talking about the book you've written, you're thinking about the book you're currently writing, and you're thinking about the book after that. So at the moment, it's crazy. You've got your brain in 3 different places. I've got some book plots together for the next one that I need to start writing soon. Because it takes me about 9 months to a year, I think, to write one. I've kind of slowed down. I did one every 9 months for a while. Just one of speculative fiction, one of psychological fiction. It just wasn't doable anymore. I didn't want to spend weekends doing it. I wanted to spend time with my son. As I say, we moved house. I wanted to be repainting and gardening and being like an old pensioner and having that. I can't do that if I'm sitting in front of a keyboard thinking about how to murder somebody.
It's a lot though, isn't it? Because I always think of Michael Connolly because he has like 2. It seems to me he has like 2 books coming out a year, and then I'm just thinking, I'm managing to get 1 book out a year. I'm writing 1 book a year, just how publishing falls. It may not necessarily come out like for 1 a year, but I'm writing 1 book a year. I keep thinking, could I do 2? But it just feels like a lot because having that merry-go-round of working, because I was saying to you before, you're working on 1 book and then my edits come back and you've got to put that back and then you send it off, you go back to your other thing, then I'm doing a plan for something else. It's a lot.
You want a life as well, don't you? What's the point in doing it? You have a life.
Yeah. Do you think that you're quite strategic about publishing?
How so?
And your career? Going from journalism and going to becoming a writer and then doing speculative fiction and then doing psychological fiction. I think was there like a clear plan for that? Or is that just no?
Totally bluffed my way through it the whole way through. Yeah, there's been no plan. It's just happened. I don't even have an agent still. I've got a TV and film rights agent, but I don't have a book agent.
Seriously?
Yep, don't have one. I've thought about it a few times, but thought, you know what, I've got my other half and I, we kind of have an idea of how much the book's how much we're worth. I don't try, I'm sure I could probably, if I had an agent, they'd be able to get a bit more money out of stuff, but quite happy with what I'm earning. Quite enjoying what I'm doing. I don't really feel like I need an extra layer of complication, and that's how I would find it at the moment, an extra layer of complication.
Yeah. And that's always been the case, not having a literary agent.
Never had one. Worked directly with a publisher.
Was it the 80 rejections put you off? Or was it just...
Yeah, I want to go back and say, hey, will you take me on? And when they make an offer, no, this is what you did last time.
In a red Sharpie.
Yeah, no, I think it's just a case of got this far without one. I've been doing this for about 10 years now. Got this far without one. I don't know how much it would add to my life if I did have one.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky I've got a TV and film rights agent based over in America. He does, I can't do anything with TV and film rights. I wouldn't really know where to begin. But with my books, I've kind of got more of an idea.
I'm trying to think if you're the first author I've spoken to on the podcast who hasn't got a literary agent. I'm sure I must have spoken to someone about one, but it's unusual because I think I've spoken to people who are, whether they've self-published or they've gone with a small indie publisher with their first couple of books, so they've submitted direct to publisher, but then after that they've then picked up an agent. I don't think I've spoken to someone who's, and for a career as successful as yours, not to have an agent at all.
I just have a really good relationship with the editors that I've worked with. So I've been with Thomas and Mercer for my psychological thrillers from the start. So this is the book I'm working on, is about to be, I think, the 8th one for them. And I did write for Pan Macmillan. So first of all, it was Penguin for my speculative fiction, did 3 books for them, and then moved with their editor to Pan Macmillan, did 3 books for them. So again, it's been mainly 2-3 editors that I've worked with all the time for those different labels. So we know how we work with each other.
And what about having that transition from speculative fiction to psychological fiction?
I used to find that quite easy. I used to do one of one kind, then one of the other, and I did 5 speculative fictions, and I enjoyed writing those. And I'm not saying I'm not going to write anymore, but at the moment, I've got to go. If you're going to put it quite frankly, you've got to go where the money is, and the money is with psychological thrillers. So that's what I decided to invest my time in.
Because that's the thing. It's like there's always like I'm not saying an argument, but that discussion about whether or not you should be writing to trends or whether you just be writing the book that you want to write. But, saying all that, it's like it just goes back to what we're talking about in the beginning in terms of thinking yourself as a brand and thinking of yourself as a business. You want sustainability, don't you? Yeah.
You've got to decide as well when you first start whether you want to write for pleasure, whether you want to write for the critics, or whether you want to write to earn a living. And I want to write to earn a living. I mean, because Thomas & Mercer is an Amazon-owned label, so they promote all the way across their brand, all the way across Kindles and online and targeted advertising and stuff like that. And they don't sell their books very expensively, so they sell them. I think my new one's about $3.29 to download on the Kindle, and I'd rather go for that. Sell them. What is it? What's that saying about?
Sell them high. Yeah, stack them high, sell them cheap.
Yeah, I'd rather have a big audience than I would have rather than selling a new book at $9.99 on a Kindle and having a much smaller audience. I'd much rather go for a big audience.
I think $9.99 on a Kindle's mad. It's like
I get why they do it, because when I was with Penguin and Pan Map, they used to do that, like $7.99, $9.99 for those first few weeks. But people, kind of audiences, my readers get used to buying things at a smaller price. They will wait until 99p daily deals or until they're reduced or go into Prime.
Is there a different experience working with Thomas & Mercer, which is Amazon, in comparison? So if I'm saying like the big 5, or is it relatively the same?
Only when it comes to the promotional side of things, and they really do have a long game. Thomas & Mercer do. They are not thinking about your book for that first couple of months like a lot of online publishers do. They're thinking about it for a year and a half, 2 years, and they know what they're doing. They know what different categories and price differences and things that they'll do with it. When it comes to the editing side of things, no different whatsoever. They are they've got so many different layers, probably even more so than the big 5 that I've worked. The 2 of the big 5 that I've worked for.
And going back to when you had your billboard experience, I always say I want to be on the side of a bus, and someone goes, well, being on the side of a bus doesn't shift books. I'm like, I don't care. I just want to be on the side of a bus to say I was on there.
The most random one I've ever been on is the Amazon lockers that you get in places.
Yeah, were you on there?
Yeah, they had in 3 different locations. They had like a book, The Good Samaritan, that I written plastered all over that. So I had to make a special trip down to in Watford.
Yeah.
To just go to go down and pay homage to a frigging locker.
That's the most random.
No.
Yeah, that is so random. An Amazon locker.
Yeah, proud of myself.
Yeah, so you should be. So you should be. Listeners, it's time for a very short break. If you're enjoying this conversation with Nadine Matheson and want to help keep the podcast going, why not buy me a cup of coffee? Your support goes such a long way in keeping these conversations flowing. Just check out the link in the show notes. What would your advice be to someone who, you know, if they have had the full billboard to poster experience of their first books, they've had the bell and whistles publicity campaign, and then the second book they get nothing, and the third book they get nothing. What would you say to someone for them to keep going? Because that's a lot.
I think you have to treat every book like it's your very first one. I don't think you can expect anything unless you're a really big name, unless you're like the Taylor Jenkins Reads or the Dan Browns, and you know that they're going to throw everything at it straight away. I think you just have to, you have to be prepared to do a lot of it yourself and work out what you're willing to do, whether you want to travel the country doing book signings and doing panels at the various book events, or whether you want to throw your time into doing it online, and whatever works for you. You just need to put that work in.
What was it that made you decide that, you know, doing the panels, doing the festivals wasn't for you, and that you know, your time was better spent being online, I suppose?
I think going into them and sitting in the audience and then imagining myself being on that stage and coming up with the answers myself, and I realised I really wouldn't be able to. It's just
really, even after being like a journalist and interviewing celebrities and doing all of that.
Yeah, when some of the authors talk about like all the details of the process that they go into and their inspiration, and you know who they're looking to, who they'd like to emulate, and just their inspirations. I'm thinking, you know what? I just get a stupid idea in my head and I've got to write it, and that's it. And that's not an answer. That won't do on a panel when you're sitting next to the brilliant Dorothy Kuhnson or Lisa Foley, and they're going into such great detail about their work. And I'm like, I don't know, got an idea.
I always feel that way whenever I think, God, I hope they don't ask me about themes in the books. I'm like, I wasn't thinking about themes when I wrote the book. I literally just thought, this is a good story, I'm just going to write the story.
I've seen you on stage and you are brilliant. You're just natural.
Thank you.
I've seen you at Harrogate. Natural.
It's still a bit like daunting though. When you get up there and you're like, God, I've got to say, you got to give an answer that you hope people will laugh at in a good way, if they are going to laugh. And I don't think I'm funny anyway, but I'm like, you still want people to resonate with you. You don't want those like embarrassing silences when you say something.
I ramble as well, and I go off on tangents and I forget what the questions are. I did a little book event for a library not far away from us. I hated the name of it. An Evening with John Mars. You could have just put the word there, and that's how I felt. It was very Partridge-esque, but it was really nice, and like about 80 people came along, and I kind of enjoyed it. And that's because that library, they were raising a few funds to pump into the kids area, and the kids area after lockdown, when our boy was born, we used to go there quite a lot. So they had all these activity afternoons, or we just go along, choose some books, or just play there for an hour. So I kind of wanted to support it. But that, and I did an event with Mark Edwards as well, my first ever one at like an independent bookshop, and that was okay. But neither of these things has ever made me want to go and do more.
And also they're exhausting, and I always feel like you sound a bit. I probably sound a bit ungrateful. You're like, oh my God, it's so exhausting. You know, having to travel here, there, and everywhere. Like I was in Aberdeen last month, and I got to go to Ireland later on in the year. But it takes a lot out of you doing those, like traveling to and from and talking.
And I can't be asked. It's too much on telly to watch. I've got 4 rhododendrons that need planting in that garden and a couple of stairs left to sand. I don't have time.
Go on.
It just makes me sound so ungrateful, because it's amazing to be asked, to be thought of, to participate in these things. But it's just, I know what suits me, and I know that I would spend the week before it just feeling nervous and anxious about it, and I don't want to do that. I'm too old to be feeling anxious and nervous about doing stuff.
But do you know what? I don't think it makes you sound ungrateful at all. I just think it's just a dose of reality, because a lot of times, I mean, I've gotten invitations. I'm like, I can't be asked. I just don't want to. Like, I don't mind doing it, which is why I kind of scaled back from doing festivals. I mean, in the first year, because when the first book came out, when the Jigsaw Man came out, it was smack in the middle of lockdown, so there was nothing, everything was online. And then I think in the process of that, I'd said yes to everything for like the following year. So 2022, 2023, I did so many events. I remember I was end of 2023, I think I came out from Iceland. Yeah, from Iceland. And I was like, I can't do this in 2024. I was exhausted.
Yeah, just burnt out by it.
Yeah, because you still have to write your book.
Yes,
you need to fund these trips.
Yeah, because your publisher doesn't necessarily pay for it, and the hotels and stays, do they? You have to do it yourself. Have you ever done one of the author? You ever done one of the author dinners at Harrogate's?
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. I've done
it twice. I think I've done it twice. Yeah.
Twice. I love that they don't know. Most of them don't. Well, they don't know who they're going to be on the table with, and even when they're on the table with you, they have no freaking clue who you are. Because there's like one person at the end. Some of them were asking to sign your book because they will get a free book. So I said to one, "Do you want me to sign that for you?" "No, I'm going to give it to my grandson." And there was somebody else who actually swapped the book with another book on someone else's table.
It's the disappointment when they realise you're not Lisa Jewell or someone else. You're like, oh,
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I do write books.
Yeah.
That is a reality check for everyone. Both the people on your table and the author, like, smack down to earth.
Yeah, it's a fun and then getting through that food. I still can't tell you what the main was.
I don't know. I think I blocked it out. I shouldn't say this on podcast, but maybe they won't listen. Yeah, maybe. I think I blocked it out. I do remember going to get a kebab afterwards.
That says it all, doesn't it?
It does. John, in all this whole, your amazing career, has imposter syndrome ever been a thing for you? Or you just
all the time? Still is.
Even now?
Still is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for years, I didn't call myself an author. I just called myself a writer. So I didn't feel like I deserved the title of an author.
That's so interesting. Because, normally the thing is like, that people don't feel comfortable calling themselves a writer. But that's normally it. But never the distinction between saying I'm a writer and saying I'm an author. Because how it was explained to me and how it's, I've kept in my head is that, the writer is you at home. So you in your office putting your book, and the author is effectively the brand. That's you being out there.
Yeah. When you fill in forms and ask for occupation, I would just put writer on there. I wouldn't put author.
Yeah.
I felt like I need to be more dramatic. I need to have like the clutching pearls and going, I'm an author. It's kind of tilting. But
turn away.
I see. Yeah, it's only maybe in the last couple of years. I used to be really competitive with people as well. When I used to see other authors who in the same categories as me doing so much better than me, and it would make me think I'm just not good enough. I'm doing okay, but I'm not good enough. But I've finally got out of that. I think it's actually since having our little boy. I think since having him, he's 5 now. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if so-and-so is selling God knows how many more than you. Who cares? You've got an audience. You earn a living. You pay to keep a roof over your head. Stop your moaning.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to take on board, like this whole writer business. I say, because you expose so much of yourself, and everyone else. I'm saying your competitors in quotation marks. They're in your face. It's not like it's not like any other job. You don't know if there's another accountant who's like the best accountant in the office. They're just an accountant.
Yeah.
But you don't have such a I suppose like a visual of the competitiveness.
Yeah.
Do with this, I think with this job, because I've had
a lot of conversations with Frida McFadden, who is currently the world's biggest seller, and she just the amount of books that she sells is just phenomenal, but the amount of online abuse that some of her books get is just so high. And it's just, I think it's really, I as much as I would love her book sales, I wouldn't love the amount of stick that she has to go through.
What's she getting stick for? You mean from readers or just
people complaining that they don't like her books? Well, why are you reading them then?
I read it.
Yeah, don't like the plots, blah blah blah. They're so critical. The more books you sell, the more negative feedback you're going to get. I also think it's a lot of it's because she's a woman, and I don't think they would have so much a go at her if she was a man. Which I think I don't get, but I really don't think. And she's lovely. She's a really, really nice person.
It really does highlight the negative side of social media, and the keyboard warriors.
Yeah,
they would never say it to your face. They wouldn't dare, but put them behind a keyboard.
Yeah, I don't do Twitter anymore. I've still got a Twitter profile, but it's only there because if I don't, then someone else will use my name. Another thing I've learned, the more books you sell over the years, the more fake accounts you get set up under your name. I was deep faked recently.
I saw that.
I've called him Deep Fake Johnny. I'm going to send him out to do events.
But what are they gaining from that? I mean,
I think they get worked it out. I think they get followers because people think it's me.
Yeah.
And somehow they will try and scam them out of email addresses or passwords.
Oh yeah, there is that.
And then Facebook won't take them down because apparently it's not breaching Facebook rules.
I had 3 fake me's on Twitter. But it was just so ridiculous. I remember emailing, back when Twitter was Twitter, and I was like, well, these are fake. They didn't do anything at all. But then they didn't really have any. Had like 3 followers, and I don't know if that was like an insult to me personally. Like, you don't think I'm good enough? Not even the fake me.
It is weird when you're just sitting there watching the TV and you're flicking through the internet, and all of a sudden you've got a video of you, which is actually you, but the mouth's slightly different and the voice is slightly changed. People,
they did all of that.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, what they chose to do, the clip that they chose was me kind of rolling my eyes and looking really bored while talking about how much I love my readers. Like, you could have picked something a bit different, but it had the voice and my voice that they'd put the whatever words they wanted to. It was quite surreal. So he's called Deep Fake Johnny, and he'll be coming to a festival near you soon.
I look forward to meeting him. Do you have a preference in terms of social media, in what you do, what you're happy to do?
Instagram, I like that. It's a nice little happy, kind of quite content world. I like that. It's quite a positive place. I've got quite a few followers there, but I've got a lot more followers on Facebook as well. Which Facebook is still a thing even in this day and age, particularly for us. And then slowly been getting into TikTok more. It's a different when you get to a certain age. Like, I'm 54 now, and I can't be seen to miming along to Celine Dion lyrics or the latest sounds or doing ridiculous videos because I'll just look like a dick. So it's a fine line of deciding what you will do and what you won't do.
Yeah, I think I worked out very early on doing like videos and miming and dancing. Doing that it's not me. It's just not me. It's why I liked Twitter back in the day. I liked firing off 100 and how many characters it was, and just leaving it there. I think my happy medium is probably Instagram and Blue Sky.
I've not explored Substack. I've not replaced Twitter with anything yet. So I figure it's enough stuff that I'm doing. That's enough to tide me over. Yeah, my other half does quite a lot of this stuff for me, like putting the videos and stuff together. I'll be sitting in here working, all of a sudden he'll come in and say, right, there's a trending sound, and that could apply to so-and-so books. Let's film that. In 5 minutes, it's on there. Yeah. Oh,
that's so good that you have that, though.
Yeah, it's handy.
But then again, even if I had that, I'll be like, no. Why are you showing me? No? Yeah. Why are you showing me this? I'm not doing a trend.
I think with TikTok, a lot of it is about readers rather than you as writers. I think it's more about them. Whereas Instagram, I think it's pretty much on a par of readers and writers, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I'm going to ask you about You Killed Me first. But before I ask you, how much has the industry changed in your view from when you published your very first book to now? And, and that's going through all the different, going through self-publishing, Amazon, traditionally published, all of that, to this point now.
To be honest, I don't really know, because I'm in this little bubble in which I don't talk to an agent. I don't have an agent, so they can't talk to me about things. All I learn is through like writing groups that I may be a member of on Facebook, or just stuff that I've read in magazines. I know the bookseller and stuff. So I kind of keep myself away from it, really. So I don't really know. All I can do is, from my experience, is that it used to be all about blogs and trying to publicize yourself on there and doing blog tours. I don't think it's so much that anymore. I think it's more about doing your own stuff and trying to find your own voice online. And as we talked about earlier on, you've got to get out there and do it yourself. And if you kind of want to succeed, you've got to have a decent product in the first place.
Yeah.
You put those hours in, unfortunately, these days.
Yeah, no, I always say, it can look like on, when you are scrolling through social media, it looks like your overnight success, but very rarely is it an overnight success. There's a lot of work that's gone into getting you to that point. You had to go through 80 rejections before you got to Netflix.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it. As you say, it's definitely not overnight. So You Killed Me First came out 2 weeks ago, and it's been my fastest selling book that I've ever had. And that is my 13th book. That's taken that long.
That's great. It's mad. Yeah, it's mad. Were you surprised when you got the numbers that first week?
Yeah, because with Thomas and Mercer, you get to see them on an hourly basis. So
God, no.
Yeah, you get to see how many physical copies and how many ebooks. You don't get the Audible numbers, but you get everything. So you get to see how much your book is doing each day. And then you look at the rankings and stuff on Amazon and get an idea of where you're doing as well. So it becomes a bit obsessive for the first couple of weeks. After a while, it'll begin to slow down a bit. It's interesting.
See, I will just get, because I know I'm lucky, because there are some writers I know, they never get told their numbers. Like in those that first month of sales, like I'm always told my numbers, like you sold this week 1, this week 2, until it naturally trails off. But there are some writers who they just never get told. And I'm like, well, don't you ask? Because you want to know if you sold 10 copies or 10,000, or if you sold 10,000, but you want to know.
Exactly. I need to know. And now I can find out literally on an hourly basis.
Yeah.
All of my books. It just become really obsessive. Yeah. And there becomes a point where you've got to put your phone down and just say, you know what, it's doing all right. You're okay. You can get your M&S meal deal this week.
You can even go bougie and go Waitrose. Get yourself some, or go Fortnum and Mason, get yourself some biscuits. I like that. That's
why you're Queen Nads.
That is why I'm Queen Nads. I like their ginger biscuits. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent. Right, would you like to tell the audience of the conversation about You Killed Me First?
What would you like to know? So
I don't know what your book's about.
It's the first book I've ever written where the title came to me before anything else. And I can't even think of where the title came. It just came into my head one day, You Killed Me First. I thought, okay, now I've got to think of a plot to go behind this. And I kind of worked my way backwards. And it's about a couple of women who live in a village. I like to set my books in villages because I think villages are really interesting. Yeah. A new neighbour moves in. One of them really likes this new neighbour. The other one's not so sure about her. And they've all got their little background, little past stories and little secrets. And the whole book opens on Bonfire Night, where one of them wakes up from being unconscious to find themselves under a burning bonfire, and a phone, little thingy in their ear, little headphone in their ear. And someone basically said, "Why are you doing this to me? Get me out, get me out." And the person said, "No, because you killed me first." And then we go backwards like a year and find out what happened.
Were there any challenges? I've got 2 questions that I'd like to ask now, stemming off from your books. Were there any challenges in writing You Killed Me First?
A lot of my books are written from a female point of view, and with one of the characters, I just wanted them to be really catty and really bitchy, but I also didn't want it to come across as a male author thinking this is how all women talk to each other. So that was one of my challenges. I think the others, I never write a book. I would say, I'm going to go off on a tangent now about timelines. So my timelines it makes it hard because I never write a book from chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, etc. I'll do a chapter here, do a chapter there, a character there, and I'm all on separate Word documents. Look at your mouth's opening as if to say, what the hell are you doing?
No, yeah, literally, it just makes
Yeah.
it fries my brain. I always say I have a very linear brain. I need to do chapter 1 to 50. I won't.
But then I'll piece it all together at the very end and like cut and paste everything together. So my timelines get a bit wonky sometimes, which is why I have to. That's a bit of a challenge. Though saying that, the book that I'm writing for next year, I did it that way as I have done for years. I did my word count, and my word counts are normally between about 90 and 100,000 words.
Yeah.
And the word count for that was 59,000. I'm like, what the hell? How have I written such a short book? So next year's book will be just like lots of long descriptions about sunsets and countryside and things like that, just to pad it out.
Is this the new one? You know, when you emailed me, you was like, Dead in the Waters next year. Is that one?
Yeah, it's that one. Yeah, Dead in the Water. Yeah, because I've been spending so much time thinking about it that's the only thing I can think about at the moment. But obviously, I'm on the promotional trail for You Kill Me First.
Yeah, I would love to write a book this night. My problem is word count. I always feel sorry for my editor. I always feel like when I deliver a book, he's always like, yeah, here's the draft. Also, I am very, very, very sorry because my word count is very, very, very big. And I tried. It's always more than 110,000.
Wow, that's good going. So I had to reread one of my older ones. I think my 4th book recently. I had to reread that for a thing I'm working on. It was 115,000. I'm like, wow. And I reckon I could have cut at least 20,000 out of that and made it much time. But back then, I think the more words.
Let's pad it. I always say add more noise.
More words. They want more value for money. More words.
I think that's one of my things, like for 2025. I'm like, no, I'm going to deliver a book that is 95,000 words. That is my intention because I haven't done it yet.
I set myself a challenge. I set myself a challenge for this year to write. I set myself a challenge this year to write a novella. I've never done one before, and it came in from start to finish. It's about 17,500 words.
That's all right.
I've never done that before. It's really hard not to just make it bigger and bigger and bigger, though.
I think that's why I find short stories hard. Because I'm like, you want me to do what in this, 4,000, 5,000 word count limit? It's like, I can't tell a story in that. And so I find it difficult. But then someone told me, a short story is just a snapshot. That's what it is. And I'm like, so once I got that, I'm like, okay, I think I can make it work. So my other question from You Killed Me First is, which one of your characters would you spend the afternoon with?
Oh, so one of my favorite characters I've ever written is in this book, and it's called Margot. And she's like she used to be in a pop group back in the 2000s, and it all went wrong for her. And every time she tries to regain popularity, it just never goes right. And she's such a bitchy character. She was so much fun to write. The book I had out before that was called The Stranger in a House. Yeah. And it was a lot about Alzheimer's and dementia and someone might be being conned, might not be being conned. It was quite a dark book, and so I just wanted to do something that was totally different and a lot lighter. And Margot was great fun to write, and it's great fun also seeing some of her one-liners and like being put on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, like people compiling lists of the things that they find the funniest from her.
Do you think you have, people are doing that because you have a presence online and you do engage, that people feel that they can like reciprocate?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think people, I don't want to say want your attention because that sounds quite negative, but they would quite like to be seen sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think as a writer, it's me personally, no, not everybody thinks that. I think it's my job to try and respond whenever I can. It's not always possible. But if it wasn't for readers, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be interviewing more The Only Way is Essex stars about their sex lives, which is what I was doing at the end of the journalism. Honestly, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to give it up as well, because when you get to this age and you're asking people half your age about sex lives, it just gets a bit embarrassing.
It's not the same thing. I remember I was in court cross-examining this guy, and he was up for basically he was up for like flashing people. He'd been living in it was an abandoned shop, but he would stand up in the window in the morning. Because where the shop, it's a high road and it's busy. Yeah. People going to, people going to work, kids going to school, and he just flash people, like in the morning.
Right.
It was so weird. But then I had to. I've put a trigger warning on this, but I'm cross-examining him. No, I wasn't cross-examining. I was doing examination in chief. Because he's my client. And then I'm there having to ask him questions about his masturbation habits. And halfway through, I stopped and I said to myself, this is not why my parents sent me to university. Like, it's just not what they were expecting when they're like, my daughter's a lawyer and come there basically asking this man how many times he wanks off in the window. And I was just...
And that's how you and I first met.
That's how we first met. John's my client. It's just... But you have those moments. You're like, this can't be it. This
Absolutely.
can't be it.
Yeah, you get those moments. I've told this story before. I once had to interview a Spice Girl who'd released a solo album, and it was absolutely awful. But I can only remember one song title, and it was just me and her in this restaurant that the PRs had hired out for the day. So she was just sitting opposite me. She asked me what my favourite song on the album was. I could think of one title, and she just sang it to me for about 3.5 minutes. So hard to know what to do. And I was thinking, yeah, this is not why I went to journalism college. Spice Girl.
It's such a come down to earth. You're just like, reality check. Much needed. Yes. Right, John, I got your final set of questions. Are you an introvert or extrovert or a hybrid of the two?
I think most of the time I'm an introvert, but when I'm promoting books, I'm more of an extrovert. Okay. Yeah.
What challenge or experience, and I always say good or bad, doesn't need to be a bad, terrible one, but what challenge or experience in your life shaped you the most?
I think, putting aside births and deaths and stuff like that, I think I went backpacking around America when I was 21. I lived with my parents up until then, and I worked for local newspapers, and I just jacked everything in with my best friend, and we just went over there in like Greyhound coaches, trains, hitchhiking, lifts, whatever. And that's the first time in my life I ever had to really stand on my own 2 feet, and that changed me completely.
And if you could go back to when you were 25 years old and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say stop trying to be different people to fit in. Just be yourself. Yeah. I think a lot of that, so I don't have brothers and sisters, so I think maybe a lot of that had to do with being an only child and just kind of trying to find your way in the world like that. So yeah, that would be mine. Just be yourself, because yourself ain't too bad.
Yeah, I think when you got siblings, that you find out very quickly what sort of person you are, how you react to things, and also where you fit in like the family dynamics. And also I suppose like that, who's the comedian, who's the serious one, who's the one who's going to get you out of trouble, who's like, you kind of work out who you are.
Yeah. So we've just got the one boy, and so I see him at school and how he behaves with different pockets of people, fitting in different ways with different pockets. And I'm thinking, just be yourself, but he's got to find this all out by himself.
Yeah. It's basically what they call code switching, isn't it? But it's amazing how, you code switch from such a early age, and, especially when you're in secondary school, when it's really thrown in your face and you've seen all the different pics and things.
He's not going to He's not going to secondary school. He's staying in a bubble, protected bubble in here until he's 18, and then he will be driven to and from university every day.
John is like, you will not be touched by the real world. All right, I have a new question. What is your non-writing tip for writers? And I always say it could be anything. It could be drink water, but like your non-writing tip for writers.
We kind of touched earlier on, didn't we, about writing in different places and not just being stuck in the same place.
Yeah.
I think that would be one of mine. And you hear a lot of people who want to write a book talking about, I don't know where to start, or I don't know what to do, or I don't know how to approach it, or I don't have time. And I'd say just get on with it. Just, if you've got an idea, just get on with it. And it doesn't matter where you do it or how you do it, whether you're writing in a notebook or writing on a laptop, just get on with it.
Yeah. Someone, they asked me this question, and I need to, because I normally do a writer's clinic on my Substack. Well, I'll answer a question every week, and they asked me this question this week, and they said, I've got the plot and I've got the characters. How do I start? And my response was, you're not halfway there.
Yeah,
There's only
absolutely.
you've got the most important bits. You have the plot, and you know what
Yeah,
your characters are. You just need to just sit down and write.
yeah. Just get on with it.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily accept. I don't know about you. Do you, when people say to you, I don't have the time to write a book? Well, yeah, I did. As I said, I did it on trains. I did it in lunch breaks at work.
yeah.
I'd like sit by the Thames sometimes with my laptop, hoping it wasn't going to be nicked while I was writing on it, because I had like 15 minutes there. Or I'd dictate bits into my phone to then type up at another point. I know it's difficult when you've like, if you've got kids and a family and stuff like that. But even 10 minutes a day, it will add up.
It all goes back to what I always say. You need to steal time. And
Mm,
similar to you,
yeah,
like I said, I'll be sitting in court. I said, waiting for my case to be called on. Okay, so I might, if I'm lucky, it might be 2 hours before my case is called on. So I've got 2 hours to write. If I'm unlucky, it could be 5-10 minutes. But in those 10 minutes, even if I just write one sentence, it's a sentence more than I had like an hour ago.
yeah,
And even who was I can't remember who I was talking to yesterday. I was talking to someone yesterday, and he was saying the same thing. It's like, if you have to get up half an hour early just to write 50 words,
yeah,
that's what you can find the time in the day. It sounds a bit like letting them eat cake, but you can find the time in the day to
yeah.
write.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah, if you sit there looking for that perfect, I said it goes back to looking for the perfect space, the perfect desk, the perfect environment.
Yeah, I don't believe that perfect is ever going to exist, because you're always going to find an excuse for something else.
Yeah, no, most definitely. So, John, so You Killed Me First is out now. I sound like TV. You Killed Me First is out now, and
All good books.
available in all good bookshop. Dead in the Water is next year. Do you know
Yeah,
what you're writing beyond that? Not your
that's the one.
secret projects.
No, that's what I'm trying to plot at the moment. So I've got 3 different books that I've got plots for, but I don't have endings for any of them. So I need to try and think of an ending. So I know a lot of writers, they'll just start, won't they? Even if they don't have an ending,
Yeah, no,
go
I
for it. I
can't.
can't do that. I need to know
I
in my head where it's going to finish.
Yeah, it's everyone's so different. Because I was watching. What was I watching? I was watching I forgot David Baldacci's masterclass, and he was doing a section on outlining, and he was basically saying he doesn't outline all the way through, so you won't necessarily know the ending. And in my head, I'm thinking, but if you plan, you need to know the ending. Even
Yeah.
if you change it, because I said I will plan. Everyone knows, like I plan my books. I know how it ends, but I'm very much open to it, to the ending changing
Yes.
once I start writing.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, I'm quite happy for the ending to go a completely different direction if the book if it needs. But I've got to have an ending in my head. Otherwise, I'm going to be constantly in fear that I'm not going to be able to end this book.
No, I wouldn't. If I didn't have a plan, I wouldn't finish, and I just wouldn't be able to start. I need to know. Like I wouldn't, and also I think with my plans, I very much know that my first 3 chapters aren't going to change, no matter how many drafts it goes through. Yeah.
Okay.
My first 3 chapters are always, looking back at my books, they've never changed. Stuff may change in the process, but those first 3 chapters, and they are very rigid. I suppose rigid, but not because I've written them over and over and over again. I've just written them, but I'm like, I know how my story starts. No matter where it goes, I know how it starts.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, I never thought of myself as being impressive in that way. I'm going to take it today.
I'm wearing it.
I'm going to take it and wear it. My first 3 chapters are impressive. After that, who the hell knows?
Okay. I don't get any further than them, do they?
Yeah. John, before I let you go, only because someone asked me this yesterday and I was like, I don't think I do. Do you have a favourite book? And I don't mean favourite, maybe one that I don't know, gives you joy.
I have different ones for different reasons. So like the one that's been my biggest seller worldwide and most translated book and blah, blah, blah. So that'll always have a special place in my heart. There was one that, that I was released in COVID and I didn't think it was going to do very well. And it did. It kind of caught fire and that's become like my biggest seller in the UK. And there's one that I really don't like. There's one that so our little boy was born prematurely, so he spent the first month in hospital, and I spent a lot of time. If we weren't with him in the neonatal unit, then we'd be in the family room and just killing time really till we could be back with him. And I had to do like lots of edits and writing of that when I was in there. So every time I think of that book, I just think about that time, and it's just yeah, I just don't really. I'll never. Don't think I'll ever read it again. So there's some that I have, and you know what? I know that a book is going to do all right if I can think of the title myself. Isn't that weird?
No, it's not weird. It's not weird at all, because I was planning, because you know it's like when you finish one book and then you probably got edits out on another one, but you need to be planning what you're going to be doing next. And well, for me, I've got to send it to my agent. This is what I want to be doing next. Send it to the editor. What do you think? And I was planning this standalone, because they're like, would you write a standalone? I'm like, yeah, I'll write a standalone. And it was similar. I had the title first in my head. And then I'm like, okay, I need to think of in my head, I'm like, this title's so good. And I need to come up with a story, and I've got the story. And I'm doing the outline, even though the outline kicked my ass, because I'm like, I need to get this right. Because it's harder for me as a standalone, not a series I'm just dipping back into. But in my head, I'm thinking, no, I think this is going to be good. This is going to be good. That's like a nice feeling to have, though.
Yeah. I've had 2 books that haven't performed as well as others. They've misfired a bit. And that's why I put down to I didn't think of the titles for those. Yeah.
But when you think of the title, it's like you own it from day one, from the very beginning, and you're like, I'm fully invested. All right, John, that just leaves me to say, because it's been wonderful chatting to you. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been lovely. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So I'm going to say officially, thank you very much, John Mars, for being part of the conversation.
Thank you for including me in the conversation.
Thank you so much for listening to today's conversation with Nadine Matheson. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a brand new episode featuring more amazing guests. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a review. It really helps the podcast grow. And if you'd like to support the show, you can buy me a cup of coffee or sign up on Patreon. The links are in the show notes. And if you'd love to join the conversation as a guest, feel free to send an email to theconversation@nadineMatheson.com. Thanks again for your support, and I'll catch you next time.